is purely to prepare you for the next upcoming pre-registration examinations, which is one of the requirements of your internship. So what we look at is making sure that by the time that you sit for your examination, you know exactly what to prepare for and exactly what to look forward to. Just a few things to note as we start our presentation is if you have any questions, please use the Q&A function within Teams or use the comment section within YouTube, right? We will spend around about 3 hours together in this presentation. So please try your level best to stay throughout the end. We will, however, have a 10-minute break just to stretch our legs and refill our coffees. Towards the end, please do sign the attendance register. It is quite imperative that we know who was here and who wasn't. And we will also ask for your feedback as we are ending the workshop so that we can improve whatever can be improved for the next upcoming interns. We will send the presentation or save it rather on our website, and it will be also available on YouTube should you need to refer back to it later on. Interruption. Um, Again, welcome to the workshop. This is a workshop intended for assisting you prepare for the upcoming examinations. We will look at the requirements for the examination, the content of the examination, and what to expect on the day of writing your examination. Please ask all your questions via the Q&A function on Teams or the comment section on YouTube. We will spend around about 3 hours within this section just to make sure that we cover everything. Please sign the attendance register and also give us your feedback via the surveys that will be shared towards the end of the presentation. All presentation, including the actual slides, will be put up on the website for you to review later on should you need to. Today, we will first have an address from the Registrar's Office, COO, Mrs. Mojo Mukwena, and then I will introduce you to our speakers who will be facilitating some of the sessions as we go along before we take a look at what to actually expect as far as the examination platform is concerned. I will now hand over to Mrs. Mojo Mukwena, our COO, to give you the welcoming address. Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth, and good morning to the team that made this day happen, and morning to the VIP for today, the interns, and the few tutors that might have made it to join us. We know it's a Saturday, and we really appreciate you being here.
Pretoria is beautiful. I'm hoping throughout the country it is just as beautiful and a little bit warm, similar to Pretoria. I think for me, I thought maybe I just take this opportunity and I won't be long, just to wish you well on this workshop, but most importantly, on the journey that you have just undertaken this year for your internship. And I speak from experience when I say that please ensure that you remain focused on this year. I do know that most of us struggled when we were students, and just to have bread and peanut butter, it was difficult. And now we have a salary, and probably our plans are huge than what we get. But I want to ask and beg you to stay focused this year. If you follow the social media, you will know the challenge that the profession face, the country face. And I'll just talk to the lack of position. And some of you might know your friends that struggle to get the placement. So the market is struggling. So make sure that you do not contribute to the frustration by the end of the year. Meaning, when we open the exam booking, the first one, after today, leave everything else that you wanted to do. Make sure you go through these slides again. This is just a snippet. Go through the intern manual that when you have your CPD workshop, you can ask the right question in that platform and you can make sure you can do it well. I can tell you now, the pass rate for this exam, it goes to 98, 97%. There are students that get to that mark. Now, if you get a 40 something percent, it means there's something that you're missing. So please don't be one of those students. Work hard, dedicate just this year. It's just this year for you to do things right. To make sure that when those placement open for CSP, you're ready with your CPD, you're ready with your exam. You're not writing 100 emails to pharmacy council because you missed this and all that. So I am asking you, and I'm talking from experience because I deal with a lot of queries from the interns that fail to plan well. Yes, sometimes they tried, things just didn't go well. But please, I am here on a Saturday asking you to please make sure that you do things right, you do things early, and you dedicate this year to what its intention is. Its intention is for you to complete your internship on time. I'm not going to take too much time. I think those were just the words that I wanted to pass to you. And on a different note, I want also you to go back. I know some tutors are here, some are not here. They've also been facing a number of difficulties, but they are still there to support you. And I'm hoping that when you are done with your internship and your CSP, you will come back to give back, to be tutors for the interns that are coming. Because in this profession, we actually succeed because of giving back. And with those few words, I would like to extend my gratitude to Dr. Johnston and Prof. Damana. A little bit of a background about these two members that are here that are going to be assisting you. They are doing a lot for this profession. They are giving back to make sure that you can succeed. From Pharmacy Council, they are not employees of Pharmacy Council. They could have been any other place today, but they chose to be here to support you. So please let's not disappoint them. They've worked on the slides days and nights and changed them. And every year they look at them and say, how can we do better? That intern that normally get a 40% can join the one who get the 97%. So every year they go through this And they've been on this journey for many, many years, many, many years, because of their passion for your success. So I ask you that we don't disappoint them. And thank you, Diane, thank you, Prof. Demana. Really, the work and the support you give to pharmacy council is not going unnoticed. Also to the team from the office that are here, thank you so much. We really, really appreciate from the registrar's office your work. And to the tutors, I have no words. I really have no words for the work that you are doing. I'm going to ask all of you, the interns, if your tutor is not here, to go back and tell them that you appreciate them and that the office of the registrar appreciate the work that they are doing. I promise you, if you do that, the next day you see your tutor, that will really go a long way for you for this year and for the future. So, and let me not take too much of your time. It's a Saturday, but last words. By the time you conclude this workshop, I would not be in this meeting, but I want you on that day when you open your laptop at that 7 o'clock. I want you to breathe in and out and tell yourself, I got this. There might be challenges with the connectivity and all those. You can never predict what's going to happen. There was a year Microsoft throughout the world, I don't know what they did. So for 5 minutes, all of us could not get to any system because we are dependent on Microsoft. I don't want that to deter you from the hard work and the preparation that you would have done. Tell yourself, I got this. And I promise you, just that mental preparation of telling yourself, you got it, will take you a long way. Thanks for being here. And I hope you write as much notes as possible and make sure that you make us proud. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Messi OO. And interns, I hope that we will take everything that the CEO has said to heart and also appreciate her time for coming and speaking to us and wishing us all the best for the examination. All right, so for the presentation today, she's already introduced Prof. Patrick Demana, who will be taking us through the calculation section, and Dr. Deanne Johnston, who will be taking us through the general section. Both these people are our moderators for the examinations, so you know that these are people that are actually involved in the setting up of the questions and the moderation of the questions. So whatever they tell you is based on experience that they actually implement whenever they are setting up the examinations that you will be writing. So please take everything that they say to heart. We also have on the call Miss Kabohelo Malaku, who is the Senior Manager for Pre-Registration Department, and myself, I've already introduced myself, Lisbeth Gumete, a manager within the unit who will be handling most of your queries regarding your internship. So when it comes to the examination itself, the paper is 120 questions, right? Written over 2 days in a total of 4.5 hours. So we split the examination into 2 days in order for you to have a bit of a break between the two sections. However, it is still one paper, just divided into two sections. Day one, you write the calculation paper or the calculation session, which has 40 questions, all of them multiple choice over a period of 2 hours. And the sub minimum for that particular paper is 60%, right? On day two, you do the general section, which is 80 questions over 2.5 hours. And the sub minimum for that one is 50%. So two sections have different sub minimums. The overall is 50%. So what that means is even if you get, say, 80, 90% in general, and you get 50 or 40 in calculation, you would have still failed the actual paper because you did not meet the requirements for the two sub minimum. So you have to make sure that you pass at least 60% calculation, 50% general, overall 50% in order for you to be deemed competent or successful in the entire paper. I will now be handing over to Prof. Demana, to start taking you through the preparation for the calculation, which is day one. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gumede. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, everyone. I will be covering the calculation section in terms of preparing the interns in terms of exam paper. The calculation section will consist of 40 questions, for which the sub minimum is 60%. And 60% of 40 questions is 24, meaning that interns must answer at least 24 out of 40 questions to be deemed competent, having passed the calculation exam paper. A note is that the sub minimum of 60% applies independently. In other words, it must be met regardless of overall exam performance. So it's 40 questions within 2 hours, meaning that answer one question, it takes approximately 3 minutes. And therefore, you need to take note of that. The questions will be drawn from everyday pharmacy practice across all sectors of the profession. In manufacturing, pharmaceutical production, wholesale, distribution and supply chain, community, and also hospital sector. So in order for you to prepare very well for this exam section, the questions will be drawn from various domains. Domain one will have roughly 4 questions. Domain four, roughly 2 questions. It is very important for you to take note of this so that when you do your preparation, you don't spend all the time on these domains, take into account that there will be many questions that will come from other domains as well. So we have indicated smaller domains, not because they are not important, still worth your attention. You still need to be competent in this. But we wanted to draw your attention that out of 40 questions, there will relatively be fewer questions from these domains. And there are two standards. Domain one, the standard is competency standard 1.4, health economics. So there will be questions, calculations based on cost effectiveness analysis, cost minimization analysis, cost in terms of differences between the therapeutic agents, difference between branded and generic equivalents, and so forth. Domain 4, competency standard 4.2, financial management, questions based on percentage markup and dispensing fee, budgeting, etc. Of note, throughout this presentation is that you need to be aware of the formula. Not only be aware of the formula, but how to apply those formula. In terms of domain 2, there will relatively be about 11 questions. In domain 2, it's about safe and rational use of medicines and medical devices, which is really about patient care and medicines management. So types of calculations that will come from domain 2 based on the 4 competency standards: patient medicine review and management, therapeutic outcome monitoring, medicines and medical devices safety, pharmacist initiated therapy. Those types of calculations include dose adjustments, calculations based on pharmacokinetics, calculations based on creatinine clearance, and those that include concentrations, dilutions, um, isotonic solutions, those that are based on BMI, peak flow reading, etc. So you need to familiarize yourself with such type of calculations. Majority, that is about 58% of calculations, will come from domain 3. So roughly about 23 questions out of 40 questions. This will include molecular weight, density calculations, dilutions, again, isotonicity calculations, master formulae. But from the supply chain management in terms of competency standard 3.2, this will include acquisition costs, lead time, ABC analysis, etc. And from competency standard 3.3, formulary development, calculation of cost benefit analysis. So since majority of the questions will come from domain 3, it is very important for you to prioritize your preparation um, here. Just continue with domain 3. That will also include calculations um, that involve reconstitution, including displacement volume, rate of infusion, doses by weight and surface area, prescription verification, and for competency standard 3.5, medicine compounding, and in terms of master formulae. Concentrations in terms of percentage weight per volume, percentage weight per weight, percentage volume per volume. And if I give you some tips in terms of approaching calculations, in terms of units, be aware of how to convert units from a smaller unit to a bigger unit. You need to know whether you need to multiply or divide by a factor. And the principle, for instance, percentage weight per volume, as an example, you should be aware what does that mean. It means gram per 100 mil. Now, want to emphasize more on equations as well. And it is very important to prepare well before. For example, when you are dealing with dilution calculations, be aware of the dilution formula. C1 V1 equals to C2 V2. In all this, take into account of the South African context, particularly with the units. For instance, we don't use pounds, we use grams, we use kilograms, etc. So it is very important when you are preparing for this exam, for the calculation exam, that SI units are the units that are used in the South African context. So we have prepared some few examples with regard to calculations. And we have chosen deliberately this type of calculations because from our experience, we've noted that interns have not been doing very well. So some few examples, like question on domain 1, with regard to costs. Let's try to do this in about 3 minutes. A 55-year-old male patient is stabilized on warfarin 5 milligram daily at a cost of 28 rand point 8 cents per month. Patient has his INR monitored weekly at a cost of 117 rand point 70 per test. The patient has heard about rivaroxaban from his doctor and wants to know the cost implications. The cost of rivaroxaban 15 milligram daily is 637.95 cents per month. What is the difference in cost annually between these two options? So I'm giving you about 3 minutes um, to do this calculation, and then we will go over the memo uh, before the next question. All right, let's see how you would have done this calculation. Um, this is cost comparison for warfarin 5 milligram daily as compared to rivaroxaban 15 milligram daily. You were told for warfarin 5 milligram daily that the medication cost is 28 rand point 8 cents. That is per month. Therefore, in 1 year, since it is annually, that is 12 months, you need to calculate that, and that will give you about 345 rand. In terms of the test, the INR monitoring is 117 rand point 70 cents test. And you were told that this is done weekly. In a year, there are 52 weeks, and therefore 52 times 117.70 should give you the amount, which is 6,120 rand point 40 per year. That's annually. Therefore, the total cost will be the cost for the test plus that one for education annually, and that should give you a total amount of 6,465.40 cents. Since you are comparing the cost, you need to do what it would have costed for rivaroxaban 15 milligram per daily. You were told that the medication cost for this is 637 rand 0.95 per month. Therefore, annually, you multiply that by 12. That should give you a total amount of 7,655.40. And therefore, you look at the difference in terms of the cost, and you will see that cost difference is that it would have costed you 1,190 more per year for rivaroxaban. And that should have been the correct answer. So if we move to another question, domain 3, aseptic mixing. The patient requires an intravenous infusion of 0.9% weight per volume sodium chloride. In your hospital pharmacy department, you have water for injection BP and 4.5% weight per volume sodium chloride solution BP. Assuming no volume displacement effects, what volume of the 4.5% weight per volume sodium chloride solution BP needs to be added aseptically to an expandable PVC infusion bag containing 100 ml water for injection BP to produce the required sodium chloride concentration? Again, I'm giving you about 3 minutes to work out um, this calculation. Then we'll go over the memo. So in terms of answering this question, um, you will realize that you are diluting, and hence the dilution formula comes handy in terms of for this calculation. the dilution formula is C1V1 equals to C2V2. You are diluting sodium chloride 4.5% with water in order to end up with 0.9%. And when you are using a dilution formula, there is one unknown quantity. For instance, here you are requested to find out the volume of the 4.5%, which is the V1. Therefore, you should know C1, you should know C2, you should know V2. C1 is easy, it's 4.5%. C2 is the concentration you want, which is easy, 0.9. And the question is, what is V2? Because it's not just 100 mil in this particular case. The 100 mil that you have is the 100 mil of water for injection, which should be mixed with a certain volume of 4.5%. So for this calculation, you will need to have C1, as I've indicated, is 4.5, C2 is 0.9, V2 is you will need that 100 mil plus certain volume of the 4.5%. And therefore you can calculate V1. So I'm just trying to emphasize here that although this is you need to use dilution formula, it's not as simple as one would have thought, where usually you are given the final volume of V2. So in this particular case, there's also another method that one could have used for this calculation, and that's alligation method. Because for alligation, you need a concentration and you have got a diluent. Diluent has got a concentration of 0% because there's no sodium chloride in water for injection. And therefore, you will have 4.5%, you will have 0, then in between you have got 0.9, and then you can work the parts using the alligation method, which should have actually been an easier option. Because if you go for dilution formula, it's not obvious that you have that V2 unless you figure it out that the final volume in this particular case would be 100 plus that volume which is needed for 4.5%. So the point for this calculation is that you should know the formula for dilution. You should know also how to do alligation calculation because you will still end up with 25 mil. You are aware with alligation, diluents, bases, they've got 0% because there's no active, there's no API. So that's 0% of API in those. And if you've got different concentrations, you can also use alligation method. So this question and this example is meant for you to go and practice dilutions, to go and practice alligation so that you will be successful, you will be competent in the exam section. Let's go to another example, which is molecular weight, because that's where we also see interns having some challenges as well with this type of calculations. Question is given that the relative molecular mass, RMM, of sodium chloride is 58.5 gram per mole. What amount of sodium chloride powder is required to prepare 300 ml of a solution containing 50 millimole per liter? So I'll give you a few minutes to do this. In some of the calculations, uh, you will do them in less than 3 minutes. And you should take advantage of that because if you come across some challenging questions which might take a little bit longer, you will have enough time in terms of doing that. So try to do this one of molecular weights. Relatively an easy question, provided you know the formula and how to apply that formula. That's very important. So given that the relative molecular mass of sodium chloride is 58.5 gram per mole, what amount of sodium chloride powder is required to prepare 300 ml of a solution containing 50 millimole per liter? So in terms of answering this question, it's very simple. As I've said, if you know the formula, and that is the point that I want to emphasize in that go to the exam knowing the formula. You don't need to look at the formula during the exam. Practice and be aware of those. For this calculation, it's simple. Number of moles, the formula is number of moles equals to mass divided by molecular weight. You're given 50 millimole, and that's where the conversion of units becomes very important, which I've indicated in the previous slides, that you really need to be aware of for that, so that you can convert millimole to moles or mole to millimole. So in this case, you are given the and you will just need to substitute in terms of molecular weight. And if you do that, you will end up with a total amount of 0.877 gram, which is equivalent to 877.5 milligram. So all you need to do is to calculate mass from that formula, where N equals to M over RMM. Then mass will be number of moles times by the molecular weight. The number of moles you are given is 50 millimole. And if you want to convert that to moles, it will be 0.05, and then you get grams. So that will be the grams in a liter. But you were not requested in a liter, you were requested it for 300 mil. You should end up with that amount. So very simple. It's a question of just substituting and conversion. Some few examples, isotonic solutions. And the question um, for this type of um, question, isotonic solutions using sodium chloride equivalent is that a pharmacist receives the following prescription: ephedrine hydrochloride 0.5 gram, chlorobutanol 0.25 gram, dextrose anhydrous QS, purified water 50 ml. How many grams of anhydrous dextrose should be used in compounding the prescription to make an isotonic solution? So you need to make solution isotonic by adding dextrose anhydrous, and you are told to use the sodium chloride equivalent method in order to come up with that, because you are given the sodium chloride equivalent for ephedrine hydrochloride 1% weight per volume is 0.30. You are given the sodium chloride equivalent for chlorobutanol 1% weight per volume. The value is 0.24. And you are also given the sodium chloride equivalent for anhydrous dextrose 1%, which is 0.18. And the question is how many grams of anhydrous dextrose should be used in ensuring that the preparation is isotonic. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes for you to try this question. So in terms of the memo to this question, it is very easy provided you know the formula and how to apply it. Because the formula for sodium chloride equivalent is based to that of 0.9% sodium chloride in 100 ml saline water. And the formula is that the sodium chloride equivalent equals to concentration in gram per 100 ml comes by the sodium chloride equivalent value contributed by each ingredient. So in this case, it will be 0.9, that is in gram per 100 ml, minus the concentration of ephedrine in percentage weight per volume, that is 0.5 gram in 50 ml. And you just need to convert that to percentage, multiply by its sodium chloride equivalent. You also have chlorobutanol, and therefore you do the concentration in percentage weight per volume, and you multiply by its sodium chloride equivalent. And when you get that, you just subtract from 0.9. And whatever you get, you then do it in terms of the sodium chloride equivalent of dextrose. So either you do it in percentage weight per volume, or if you do it in gram per liter, it will be 9. The answer will be the same. So 0.9, then percentage weight per volume, or if you do sodium chloride equals to 9 in gram per liter, that means everything should also be in gram per liter. The answer will be the same. So in this case, uh, you get the ephedrine hydrochloride, you do in percentage per weight per volume, 0.5 over 50 times by 100, multiplied by the value of sodium chloride equivalent for ephedrine hydrochloride, you get that. You do the same for chlorobutanol. Again, as I've said, percentage weight per volume is 0.25 per 50 mil as a percentage. Then you multiply by its volume. Then you get this. And then when you add this for ephedrine and chlorobutanol, you just subtract it from 0.9 and you'll see you get 0.48 uh, uh, gram. But that was per 100 mil. In terms of what is required is 50 mil, purified water up to 50 mil. And therefore, if you have 2.667 gram in 100 mil, therefore in 50 mil, it will be half of that, which is 1.33 gram. You would have got the answer. So you when you go to the exam, please already prepare very well. But if such questions come on isotonicity, be aware of the formula. If a sodium chloride equivalent method is easy, is 0.9 percentage weight per volume, subtract concentration in percentage weight per volume multiplied by the sodium chloride equivalent of all the ingredients. And then the last part is you just divide that by the equivalent, by the sodium chloride equivalent of what you want. So let me give you another example of isotonicity calculations, not based on sodium chloride equivalent, but based on freezing point depression. The question is calculate the quantity of sodium chloride that should be added to 150 ml of a 1% weight per volume solution of apomorphine hydrochloride to render the solution isotonic with blood plasma. You are given that the freezing point depression of a 1% weight per volume solution of apomorphine hydrochloride is 0.08 degrees Celsius. And you are also given that the freezing point depression of a 1% weight per volume solution of sodium chloride is 0.58 degrees Celsius. So given that information, calculate the amount of sodium chloride needed to render the solution isotonic. I'll give you a few minutes for that, and you will see again, this question is based on knowing the formula. If you don't know the formula for freezing point depression, there's no way you're going to answer this question. But it's not a question of just knowing it. You must know how to apply that freezing point depression formula in order to be able to answer such type of a question. So I'll give you a few minutes. So in terms of the memo for this calculation, the formula for freezing point depression is 0.52 minus A over B. That is the formula 0.52 minus A divided by B. A is the concentration that you have. Again, in percentage weight per volume, multiplied by the freezing point depression of the substance that you have. And in this case, is apomorphine hydrochloride. B is the freezing point depression for the substance that you want to adjust your solution with. We want to adjust this with sodium chloride in order to make this isotonic. So that means B will be the freezing point depression of sodium chloride. So it's as simple as that. Freezing point depression in percentage weight per volume, 0.52 minus A over B. As long as you know what A is, which is the concentration for the substance that you have, in this case is for apomorphine hydrochloride, and B, you know that is the freezing point depression for the adjusting for the substance that you want to adjust with. In this case, is sodium chloride. So if you look into the formula, I've said is 0.52 minus, that is A. The concentration is 1%. So you don't need to convert anything here. It's one. Very simple. So you just say 1 multiplied, I said, by the freezing point depression for the um, apomorphine hydrochloride, which is 0.08. Then divide by the freezing point depression of sodium chloride, because you want to adjust this solution with sodium chloride, and the freezing point depression for sodium chloride you were given is 0.58. And that's it. All you need to do is that your answer is in percentage weight per volume. So it is 0.759 gram per 100 mil. But the question wanted not to be adjusted to 100 mil, but 150 mil. Therefore, you know it's 0.759 gram per 100 mil. Therefore, in 150, it will be X, which should give you an amount of 1.14 gram in this particular case. So if you know the formula, very easy. You can do it well in less than 3 minutes. It's a question of just substituting the values, knowing that this is percentage weight per volume. And you just look into the question, have I been asked per 100 mil or for 150 mil or per liter, etc. Another example that we can work on very quickly is question based on milli equivalence. And again, we have chosen specifically this calculation because we have noticed interns not doing well in this type of calculation. So we thought it would be good to prepare you well also in this type of calculations. For this one, how many milli equivalents of potassium are there in a 250 milligram penicillin V potassium tablet? You are given that the molecular weight of penicillin V potassium is 388.48 gram per mole. How many milli equivalents of potassium ion are there in a 250 milligram penicillin V potassium tablet? You are given the molecular weight of penicillin V potassium and 1 potassium ion per molecule. The valence of potassium is 1. Again, few minutes. It's an easy question, provided you know the formula of milli equivalents. Very simple. In terms of answering this question, again, as I've said, this is very simple, provided you know the formula. The formula for equivalence is equivalence equals to valency times moles. Therefore, milli equivalence will be equals to valency times millimoles. Valency you are given is 1. So that makes it even more simpler. Moles, you must know the formula for calculating moles. We have done an example already in terms of um, molecular weight. Number of moles equals to mass divided by molecular weight. So all you need is to calculate the number of moles, then convert those moles to millimoles. Then you get milli equivalence. That's all in this particular case. So you are given molecular weight, you are given the valence, which is 1, and you are given even the mass. So all you need to do is calculate number of moles, because valency, you're given the valence for potassium, which is 1. Calculate number of moles. When you get those number of moles, just convert that to millimoles, then you get milli equivalence. That's all. So you should end up with 0.64 milli equivalence. That's two more examples, and we are done. Domain 4, cost per pack. A new vitamin is on promotion for 42 rands, 1 cent per pack. However, the pharmacy qualifies for a 6+2 deal. What is the cost per pack if the pharmacy takes advantage of this deal? So 6+2 deal is pay for 6 packs, and you are receiving 8 packs, meaning that 2 packs are free. The unit price is 42 rands, 1 cent per pack. So just do a quick calculation on this. I'll give you a few minutes. The new vitamin is on promotion for 42 rands per 1 cent per pack. However, the pharmacy qualifies for a 6+2 deal. What is the cost per pack if the pharmacy takes advantage of this deal? 6+2 deal means you pay for 6, but you receive 8. So what is the cost per pack if the pharmacy takes advantage of this deal? So let's see the answer to this question. So understand the deal in terms of for 6 paid and 2 free, it's 8 packs in total. And therefore you calculate for 6 packs, was 42 rand per 1 cent. That gives you a total of 252 rand, 6 cents in total. And you divide this by 8. That should give you a total of 31 rand point 51 cents, meaning that you are saving 10 rand point 5 per pack by taking the 6 plus 2 deal. So this is really 25% discount in terms of that 10 rand point 50 per pack. Let's move on to another example in terms of dose verification. The question is, a 60-year-old male patient who weighs 75 kg is administered a gentamicin injection. His last plasma creatinine was measured as 300 micromole per liter. The doctor prescribed 350 milligram of gentamicin to be administered IV. The question is this correct dose? A 60-year-old male patient, you are given the weight for that patient, 75 kg, is administered a gentamicin injection. You are given his plasma creatinine, and this was measured as 300 micromole per liter. And the doctor has prescribed 350 milligram of gentamicin to this patient. Question is that, is this the correct dose that the doctor has prescribed? Again, the question, once you calculate based on a specific formula, so you should look into the formula that takes into account of creatinine, plasma creatinine. I'll give you a few minutes to work on this. Now, in terms of answering this question, you need the formula that takes into account of plasma creatinine, that takes into account of age and weight. And that formula is the Cockcroft Gold uh, formula in terms of calculating the creatinine clearance. As the formula states that equals to 140 minus age times weight divided by plasma creatinine times by 0.814. So that is the formula that you're going to use the plasma creatinine, and you will get the creatinine clearance. And once you get the creatinine clearance, there's a standard table which talks about dosing. So if you get a creatinine clearance between 30 to 70 mil per mil, it tells you that the dosing should be 5 milligram per kilogram once daily. If you get a certain value in the range between 10 to 30 mil per minute, the dosing range is 3 milligram per kilogram once daily. And if it's less than 10 mil per minute, then the dosing should be 2 milligram per kilogram every 48 hours. And when you do your calculation, you just compare where it falls within, and then you'll be able to see whether the dose is correct or not. So again, it's a very simple calculation. If you know the formula and how to apply it. So in this particular case, you know the age is 60 years old. You know the weight is 75. You know the creatinine plasma level is 300 times by 0.814. You just substitute and you get 24.6 mil per minute. And just look into the table where it falls within. So 24.6, you see it falls within in the range of 10 to 30. That means the dose is 3 milligram per kilogram once daily. This patient 75 kg, so you and that should give you the dosing of 225 milligram. So you see that the doctor has prescribed an overdose. Because according to the formula, we need 225, but the doctor has prescribed 350 milligram, which is an overdose of 125 milligram excess. So that's how you deal with this calculation. It's a question of knowing the formula and how to apply it. And then you just substitute. So just in summary, what we have done so far is that in all examples that we have done, we have indicated that it is very important for you to know the formula, how to apply it, take note of the units, know how to convert those units. And if you have that, you should be able to answer any calculation that comes in the calculation paper. We have given you tips in terms of where you need to spend most time practicing in those uh, previous slides that we have indicated. Just lastly, recommended textbooks for your calculations. There's a book called Pharmaceutical Practice by Winfield, Rees, and Smith. Fourth edition, always use the latest edition, pharmacy practice. And there's also a book called Calculations for pharma, a book called Pharmaceutical Calculations by Howard C. Ansel. Um, so again, just to emphasize that look in terms of South African context, especially when you are dealing with the units, and practice and practice and practice, and you will really pass this exam. There's no need during the exam for you to start looking what page in terms of where can I get this formula, because time is of essence. You've got 40 questions within 2 hours, one question, roughly approximately 3 minutes. From my side, Ms. Gumede, that's it for the calculations. And I wish all interns the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Prof. Do we have any questions? The ones that we had on the chat, we're asking about the formula list, which we just clarified now, that if you want um, to, you can bring your own formula sheet. That formula sheet can either be a soft copy, right? Or you can bring a hard copy. It truly depends on you as to what you are comfortable with, right? So if you want to bring a soft copy, you are more than welcome to do that. And if you want to bring a hard copy, you're also more than welcome to do that. And then as far as rounding off is concerned, yes, please round off at the end of the question. You will also note, as far as the decimals are concerned, the options will guide you. If your options are in two decimals, then round off to two decimals. If your options are in one decimal, then follow that lead. I'm not sure if we have any other question, team. If not, we will then take our 10-minute break. That will also give you enough time for you to then type in your question. We will start again at exactly 10:35. So if you do have questions, please utilize these 10 minutes to type them in. When we get back, we will start by answering those questions before moving into the general. However, as we do progress, your Q&As will be attended to, so you can look at the feedback in the section in the Q&A session. Let's then take our 10-minute break. Thank you. All right, it is exactly 10:35. Welcome back. We will now hand over to Dr. Tien for her to take us through the preparation for the general section. Tien, over to you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I just want to confirm, are you able to see my screen?
Yes, very clearly. Thank you, Doctor.
Thank you so much. So good morning, guys. It's always wonderful to see you on the other side of to see you now as interns, or like wish that we could see each other face to face, but it's just to be able to reach more people having a virtual workshop. So I hope that you are having a really great time in terms of your internship, and that you're taking every opportunity that is coming your way. Remember that this is really a wonderful time where you get to explore and grow as a future pharmacist, and that you do that while being supervised by the pharmacist that is there. So really take this opportunity. I know that right at the beginning of the year, there's so much pressure on you guys with your CPDs and the exam, but really take the time to enjoy the experience. So we're going to move on to the general questions. And if we have a look at this, and I want you to keep this in mind in terms of what Prof. Damana had shared earlier, when he did the layout in terms of the questions that were coming out from the calculation section, it was quite different. We had areas where there wasn't much in terms of or few calculations fitting within certain domains. So here we've got a far more even spread of the information across the domains. And the reason that we tell you this is that this blueprint is freely available. You guys can have a look at your manual where you would find a copy of it. But take the time to see where the questions are coming from, because that will help you in terms of planning your resources and practicing, and just being aware in terms of how the questions and which areas of practice they are coming from. So this is quite important. And looking at this, you really have to take into consideration domain 1, which is a lot of our public health, domain 2, domain 3. There are fewer questions from domain 4. Domain 5 is a big chunk, and then again, the last little bit is domain 6, which really deals with research. So we're going to have a look at what kind of references you need to have with you, so that you are well prepared to tackle questions across these domains. Okay, so really an open book exam is a little bit different to what you may have encountered as an undergrad, because not many universities do open book examinations, but it is really more like what you face in practice, because in practice you aren't expected to remember everything. Of course, there's core information that you need to remember, but the references you're allowed to use, as you are allowed to use in everyday practice. But then again, it comes to what references you can use on the day and where you will find these references. So the first thing is that when I did my intern exam, people came with suitcases full of reference material and physical copies, because in those days we didn't have anything electronic, and the exam was a physical written exam. So a lot of you will still have physical copies of maybe textbooks or study notes, and you're allowed to bring these with you or have these with you when you write the examination online. So physical copies, absolutely. But remember, with each one of these, we're going to talk a little bit more in detail, is about knowing what information is in each of these textbooks. Sometimes it does take a bit longer to find things in a physical copy compared to finding it on an online version. There are a number of PDF references that Pharmacy Council has loaded onto their website. onto the examination platform, actually, which you can download. So you will have an opportunity during the practice exam to open up all of these references and then save them onto your computer so that you can familiarize yourself with these while you are preparing for the exam. So that's quite important. And then we do allow online references, and we're going to talk about those kinds of websites that you can use, such as EM Guidance. But remember that every screen that you open up during the examination process, your invigilator knows exactly what you are looking at. And even with the hard copy books that you are using, Elizabeth will talk a little bit later about, for example, if you don't look at the screen for a certain period of time, then it actually brings up a warning. So we just need to be conscious of, in terms of the way that we're going to be using our references. What we need to ask ourselves is two very important questions when it comes to references. The first one is it current? So we've got various versions of legislation and things get updated all the time. And if you got a PDF copy of the consolidated GPP that you downloaded from the Pharmacy Council as a student, that already is out of date because there have been certain board notices that have been added, and that information you need to make sure you know what has been updated and where to find the more updated version of that area of the GPP. Also, it comes down to clinical guidelines because there are updates all the time. And then we need to say, is it relevant to the South African setting? So even though a medicine may be available in another country, we are unlikely to ask a question about something that falls outside of what is available within the South African setting, unless we're testing a concept such as Section 21 medicines, where it may be relevant. But in general, all the information and the resources that you are using need to be relevant to the South African setting. So that's important. So legislation is so important. Okay, a number of questions come from legislation, and you need to know where these can be found. Under the pharmacist intern page, so if you go to the Pharmacy Council website, click on registered persons, then you open up the tile that says pharmacist intern. You will be able to download the 2026 intern tutor manual. So that's really important. And this really is a document that you should be familiar with. You should have read through it from front to back and know exactly what is contained. Within this document, you will find the blueprint of the examination. So that's really important, and also some really helpful tips. In addition, this page on the website, these are the documents that Pharmacy Council gives you access to, or you can download from within the examination platform, but you can also download these ahead of time. Now, this is what I was talking about, the Good Pharmacy Practice Manual and associated SAPC rules. Remember that this is a consolidated document. So at the time that it was consolidated, everything was up to date. But since then, we've had numerous board notices that have changed or certain things that have been added. And that original PDF document may not contain the most up-to-date information. And you need to know what has changed. We've got the SA guide to GMP, so good manufacturing practice. That's very important, that you'll be able to download it. And then we've got the essential treatment guidelines, so the standard treatment guidelines and essential medicines list for South Africa. And remember that there are 3 different levels. Again, take note of this because depending on where the question is situated, so it may be referring to a patient in hospital, which may be different from the way that the person is treated at primary healthcare level. So take note of the level of care and match that to the question that it is asking. So make sure that you're aware that although, for example, a peptic ulcer may fall within primary healthcare as well as the hospital level standard treatment guideline, the information that is given is different because one is treating a person at a PHC level, and if that doesn't resolve, the next level would then be to treat them at a hospital level. So those questions, for example, the type of treatment that they're going to give, except and treatment guidelines would be different. So you need to know that. The essential medicines list is, of course, very important. Remember that the essential medicines list only contains medicines that are used within the public sector, and that you need to know or have a resource that has got all the medicines that are registered in South Africa. And for that, you'd be able to use the EM Guidance app, and you'd also be able to use, for example, the South African Medicines Formulary. So it's important that you know where to get the information. And then, of course, the National Drug Policy for South Africa. This has got some really important principles that may help you understanding certain questions. Okay, so let's have a look at where you'd be able to find these documents, further documents. So the first tab in the tile that I was talking was under registered persons. But now you're going to the top here, and right on top on the right-hand corner, you see that we've got a little house, then a calendar, a book, a telephone, and a little magnifying glass. So if you click on the book, that opens all the reference documents, so the publications that South African Pharmacy Council has got. And it's important to note these two, legislation and pharmacia. So legislation contains all of the legislation that has been published, and it will contain the most up-to-date information. Pharmacia is really interesting for you guys to take note of, because that would bring to your attention all the changes that have been implemented. So take the time to go through the Pharmacia and have a look at what has changed within the last couple of years. It will also guide you in terms of which board notices may have been updated, what has changed in practice, etc. So I would read through the Pharmacia ahead of time and just make sure that you are familiar with what's going on. Okay, so under that legislation tab, so under the book, and under the tab that says legislation, we've got acts. Remember, the act is what is the governing documents. It's what's signed by the president, and then that's unpacked into regulations, then into rules, board notices, and proposed legislation. Very, very important that we can ask you questions pertaining to acts, regulations, rules, and board notices. We do not delve into proposed legislation because that has not yet been signed in. So proposed legislation, and you'll see that all of these documents normally are out for comments. Maybe the comment period has come to an end, but they're not yet signed, well, approved as a rule or as a document yet. Okay, so it's very important that you don't focus on the proposed legislation and that you focus your attention on acts, rules, acts, regulation, rules, board notices. Please note that this is the Pharmacy Act, but there are other acts that you need to take note of, such as the Medicine and Related Substances Act. And then we've got our associated acts where a few questions, majority of our questions are going to be focused on the Pharmacy Act and the Medicine and Related Substances Act. In addition, you could also make sure that you're just familiar with other acts such as Basic Conditions of Employment Act, Labour Relations Act, South African Institute for Drug-Free Sport Act, those other acts that you would have learned as an undergrad. Just familiarize yourself with those as well. In terms of regulations, now the regulations, there's been a few updates recently, and those were the practice and education regulations that were updated, and those were published online last year. So make sure that you are familiar with these changes. For example, there were changes in terms of the approval of pharmacy technicians. And when you studied about scope of practice, perhaps pharmacy technicians was not yet approved. The scope and the guidelines were not yet approved. So you may not see that or be familiar with that document. So it's very, very important that you are up to date with these changes that have come about. And remember, there were also tiny changes or minor changes within other scopes as well. So familiarize yourself with that. So regulations, really, really important to know what has changed. And then, of course, the rules. And the rules are quite important because they are really changing our day-to-day practice. So they unpack the regulations further, and they give us more of the nitty-gritty of what we do. So it's very important. For example, the GPP reference sources were updated. And remember, I said that that copy of the GPP and associated rules, that big PDF document, won't have any of these rules updated yet. So it's important that you know which version of documents you are working with. So go through all of these. Make sure that you have scanned through them. Know what has changed within our profession. That's so, so important. And then again, with the board notices, we've got so much going on within South Africa and within the pharmacy profession, and a lot is changing. And remember, it's a dynamic profession. So the board notices is something that you need to familiarize yourself with. And remember that the examiners and moderators want you to be up to date with the latest information. So there are often questions where things have been recent changes. And recent changes, I mean, it's not the changes that occurred yesterday, but the changes that have occurred within our profession within the last year are really important that you know what is happening. Okay. And then just again, the warning that we won't ask anything under proposed legislation. Okay, so in terms of books, reference, so books that we use, sometimes, so you need to know if you're using the SAMF, where is the index? How are you going to look up information quite quickly? How does it categorize information? So does it talk about an API in general, or does it focus on exact brands of medicine? So those types of things are really, really important. And then to correlate this maybe with other types of information. Remember that you need to ask yourself and be aware, what information can I find in each reference material, especially the books that you're bringing in. If it's going to take you longer to look something up, skip that question and come back to it. Okay, so it's important that you remember that you can skip a question and come back to it. Don't answer the question. Don't guess, because then you can't come back to it. So make sure that questions that may take longer, just go next. And then when you've got a bit more time at the end of the examination, you can then go and use that reference. Okay, books, not all books, not having too many references, whether it be books or PDF documents. Sometimes we need to know exactly where we're going to find information. So more is not necessarily better. Avoid using materials that you have never used before. So you've still got time. You've got the practice exam and then the exam that's going to be coming up, and you've got a bit of time to really use your reference material. So at work, when you're looking at a drug interaction, think about which resource is the best that I can use. How did I find this resource? What does the SAPRA website have in terms of PIs and what information? Where would I be able to see if this medicine is registered in South Africa? All of those things. So take the time now to be looking up that information. Remember, and this is a big important note, we're not saying that your notes from university cannot be used, but we are warning you that your notes from university may not be up to date. So for example, when at the university that I teach at, legislation is taught in first year and in third year. So any changes that happen since then, those students may not be familiar with those changes. And the notes that I gave to them in third year would not be up to date. So a big warning that those notes sometimes may contain errors, seldom, but they can. And then the other thing is that they may not be up to date because legislation has changed since then, or information has changed since then. So make sure that you are using rather a more reliable source that contains up-to-date information. We still, although we have a lot less load shedding, we know that sometimes there are problems in terms of bandwidth and downloading things. And sometimes it also takes a bit of time. So when we are looking at our online resources, try to download what you can beforehand. So all the documents that I was showing you, the acts, regulations, board notices, all of those can be downloaded from the Pharmacy Council website ahead of time. And you can order this in whatever way you would like to. So maybe you would like to order it in terms of alphabetical order, because that would make it make more sense to you. Or maybe you want to put it into different files, like a file for acts, a file for regulations, a file for the board notices. However you organize your material, that's quite important. But we do say rather download your resources that you can beforehand. It does take time to search for information during the exam, so be aware of that. And information may not correlate to the recommended reference resource. And this I want to bring back to that discussion that we had, or the point that we raised earlier about things being relevant within our context, within a South African context. So if you are using the Merck manual, the Merck manual is not South African. It's not a South African resource, and it may not give you the right information to answer the question. Okay, helpful online resources. So EM guidance, really, really helpful. Be familiar what it provides. So it does provide guidelines. It does provide information on the APIs. And the way that it arranges it is according to API, and then it would list the brands. Merck manual, really good for general information, but remember, not South African. We've taken you through the Pharmacy Council website, but take some time to have a look at SAHPRA's website. There's a wealth of information. You can find acts and regulations and guidelines. So it's really so important that you know what you can find on the SAHPRA website. It also has a number of databases. So for example, it has a database of professional information, patient information leaflets. It has a database of registered medicines. So take time to look at what information you can locate there. Okay. It's also important that you have a look at what is a downloadable app, what is in a PDF, or you're going to be able to open up a browser and search for it. Remember that you need your two devices during the examination. So you have your cell phone, and I know this will be explained later as well, but your cell phone, which is monitoring you. So you can't use your cell phone during the examination, and you have your laptop. You cannot use any other devices. So you've got already those two devices, and they are already in use. So you can't search using another device. So EM guidance, if you're familiar using it on your cell phone, make sure you know how to use it on your browser or on your laptop. Okay, so just a point about that. Okay, so here we have given you a list, and this list is published in the Intern Tutor Manual. Go through this. This is not absolutely every reference material you could possibly need, but it is a good thorough list. And we believe that if you have looked at these and you're familiar with these online resources, as well as perhaps you've got books, etc., you will be able to have a good chance of being able to find majority of the questions or the content of those questions. Okay. And these are things that you probably would have used as a pharmacy student. Okay, so really, really important. I just want to stress in terms of item number 12, you can, for example, use a drug interaction checker, and there are so many available. But remember that use a South African drug information checker. There is one available on EM guidance, but whatever you're using, make sure that it is relevant to our setting. Okay. Okay, online, remember that we said these are the references. So this is how a question will present during the examination. You will have the question stem, which is what it's asking you. You will then have the options over here. You'd have to select it. And then right at the top over here, there is this references tab. You can open up that references tab, and up will pop these reference sources, and you'll be able to download these. Remember what we said, download these beforehand. you are allowed in PDF documents to go control find, to search the document. We don't expect you to read it all. You can use the search function that is available. But if you haven't used that control find and that search functionality within a PDF, make sure that you're practicing that now. Okay, so helpful tips. Read, and we can't stress this enough. When you read, don't panic, okay? If it's something that you're not familiar with, or maybe it's from a different sector that you're currently working, don't panic. Read the question carefully. You know something because you've all passed your Bachelor of Pharmacy degrees at your relevant universities, so they can attest that you know a lot of information. So you will be able to know some of these options straight away that they are not viable. So confirm only the statements that you are unsure of. If you know something, be confident and answer it. So you don't have to use your resources for every question. If you're confident about the answer it. If you're very unsure and you think that that's going to take you a long time, you don't know which resource to actually go to, skip out that question and come back to it. Okay, so you will be able to come back to it at the end of the exam. As the questions present, so question 1 is not the same for everyone. We randomize the question. So you may start on question 1 and your question 1 may be the next person's question 20 or whatever. So be aware of that in terms of your questions that you have missed out only come back to you at the end. So once you have answered everything, then those questions start appearing again. Be aware of these terms that we use. So when we're asking you a question, the question would say, is it true? Is it correct? And this means that we want you to identify the correct statements. So what is there? And this is different from asking you to identify from the list what is false, what is incorrect, or we may use the word not. So be aware of that. Okay, when you had a physical copy, you probably would have circled these question words. Here you don't. So be aware of what the question is asking you. And again, it all comes back to reading the question carefully. If a question asks what is the most appropriate, it means that the other options may be somewhat viable. And you've got to really, when we use the word most appropriate, take a moment, go back to the question and read it again. And then carefully go through the detractors, because it means that out of this, there may be 2 or 3 options that could be viable, but we want you to choose the best out of those 3. And there will be information, we don't tell you it's a hint, but there will be hints within the question that will guide you to the right answer. So make sure that you are aware of that. So we're either going to ask you to identify the correct statements or identify the incorrect statements, or we're going to say out of this, what is the most appropriate or what is the best answer? So time management, again, is really important. And note here how this differs from the calculation questions. In the calculation questions, you had 3 minutes. Here, you only have 2 minutes per question. Remember that these are theoretical questions, so they are practice-based questions, but they don't often take the same amount of time as a calculation question. There are 4 options per MCQ. Only 1 option is correct. Okay, so 80 multiple choice questions, 4 options per MCQ. Select the option that is correct, okay, and be aware of your time. There is no negative marking. So in the end, when you come and you've skipped over the questions that you don't know, if you still don't know the answers at the end, you can give it your best guess because there's no negative marking. Okay. So areas of concern. So over time, we've had a look at areas that maybe you guys need to really just focus a little bit more of your attention, depending on maybe what you know in terms of your undergraduates. But Pharmacovigilance and reporting of adverse drug reactions is often something that students don't know. So it's not the theoretical concept of reporting, it's the actual process of reporting, or what you report, who you report to. That is really, really important. Okay, so take some time. There's a whole guidance document from SAPRA on pharmacovigilance. Read through that. Okay, adverse drug reaction. So, what is an adverse drug reaction that a patient may experience from, or maybe it's a patient is on 3 drugs, which drug is most likely to cause this adverse drug reaction? Okay, so for that, you would want to go and have a look maybe at the professional information of the product or the medicine that is there. You could have a look at a pharmacology textbook, EM guidance, looking under the APIs or the SAMF, but make sure that you're using a comprehensive textbook. Scheduling status, really, really important. And this is where the updates often come in. So every time there's a change in scheduling status, this will be published by SAPRA in the consolidated schedules. So go to the SAPRA website and download the consolidated schedules and be aware of changes. So for example, fluconazole, which is an antifungal and it's normally a Schedule 4, for certain indications has been rescheduled to a Schedule 2, but it's a specific schedule, a specific amount in that capsule, and it's a specific number of capsules that are a Schedule 2. So changes in scheduling status, NB, NB, NB. Okay, that's very, very important. And you would be able to note these. Sometimes it's not that easy to find this in a textbook, because remember, your textbook may be outdated, but look and familiarize yourself with the scheduling status. Management and recording of Schedule 6 medicines. I can't stress this enough. The process from ordering to receipt to dispensing. What is that process? Who does what? Where is it recorded? So, so important. We have seen that interns in general do not answer questions relating to Schedule 6 medicines well. Go through the legislation and make sure that you spend some time with the pharmacist who normally handles Schedule 6 medicines. Good manufacturing practice, including the documentation of the manufacturing sector. Critically important. So I think we had within the reference list, we had the GMP that you needed to look at, as well as the PICS guidelines. Familiarize yourself. Okay, so take your time, take some time to go through these topics and these areas. Ask your tutor about them. Have a look at the websites. Okay, so now we come to a few questions. Please, would you scan the QR code? There's also a link, and I know that the link will also be posted in the chat. So I'm going to give you, we are running short of a bit of time, so there are not a lot of questions. I'm going to give you 5 minutes, and I'm going to strictly stick to that 5 minutes. Scan the QR code, answer the questions. Don't leave anything blank. Remember that your answers are anonymous. We won't know who's answered what. And take a quick look at those questions. I'm going to come back at 12 minutes past 11. So you've got a few minutes to go through these questions. And then we'll take a look at the answers. I see we've got one response so far, so please take the last, you've got 3 minutes, quickly answer these questions, take your best guess, and we'll go through the answers. Thank you, everyone. So we've got over 100 responses. If you are still responding, then that's great. You can continue to do so. Okay, I'm just going to try and scroll down. Okay. There we go. Okay, that looks a bit better. So first question, and first question really is about resources, guys. And yeah, so let's have a look. Which of the following reference sources would assist you in determining if aspirin is safe to use in a breastfeeding mother? So definitely the professional information for aspirin, 132. The GPP wouldn't give you this information. It doesn't give you information about the medicines. The BP, also the British Pharmacopoeia, is really used maybe a lot more for compounding or maybe for some manufacturing questions, and definitely not the Pharmacy Act. Okay. Guys, the professional information, remember that we no longer refer to package inserts, but we refer to PIs. And make sure that you take some time, go find the professional information for the professional information for aspirin on the SAPRA website. Okay, so go and download that PI. Have a look. Take the time to see, is that safe in pregnancy? In breastfeeding. Okay, so which of the following statements is true regarding methotrexate prescribed for rheumatoid arthritis? Okay, so here we can really see we've got more of a basket of answers. It is correct. Live viruses we tend not to use in patients with rheumatoid arthritis. The dose, remember, is often taken as a dose on a weekly basis, and the dosage of methotrexate is quite different compared to other medicines. The medicine is not safe to use in pregnancy, and nicotinic acid is required for rescue procedures, which is incorrect. So take a look at the spread of answers. What reference source would you have used to answer this question is really what I'd like to ask you. So for this, I would have gone to one, I would have maybe looked at the SAMF. You could have used EM guidance, or you could have used the PI for methotrexate. Okay, so don't only say to yourself, what is the correct answer, but ask yourself, what is the best reference to use? Okay, so you receive a prescription for venlafaxine XL 150 milligrams daily to be repeated monthly. The patient requests that you dispense the 75 milligrams instead of 150 milligrams. Which of the following is the most appropriate action for you to take? Here, look at the word most appropriate. So some of these actions, maybe we may get away with it, but what is the best option? Taking into consideration the law, so the legal aspects, as well as patient care. Okay, so some people may say dispensing 75 milligrams is okay because it's less than the 150 milligrams. We're not giving the patient more, we're giving them less. Why can't we do it? Well, the patient is requesting a lower dose. The doctor is not aware of the lower dose. So therefore, how's this patient being managed? Can they actually, like they've been given 150 for a specific reason? So we would first want some kind of confirmation. Dispense 150 milligrams as instructed. Well, if we give the patient 150 milligrams, they're not going to take it. And what might they do? They may try open up the capsule, take half the dose, etc. So we know that they may not be compliant. Consult the doctor before dispensing. Absolutely. This is the best option. Patient wants to try a lower dose. Does this dose have to be tapered down, etc.? So consulting the doctor, really, really important. Advise the patient to take a 150 milligram capsule every second day. So this may look good and say, oh, well, within 48 hours, you're receiving the dose that you want to. But actually, we know from our biopharmaceutics, in terms of medicine levels, is that going to give us a kind of stable concentration of that drug within the blood? Okay, so it's important that you note these things. This is really integrating different parts of what you've been taught. Okay. Also important that maybe you would need to have thought a little bit about the schedule of the medicine and what it's used for, which would have guided your answer too. Which of the following is the recommended storage conditions for a tetanus toxoid vaccine in the pharmacy? So important in terms of storage of medicines. So within the different domains, go back and have a look. There is one that really focuses on supply chain management. Storage of medicines is very important. So yes, we would store it between 2 and 8 degrees Celsius. We would not store it in the freezer compartment of the dispensary refrigerator, so that would be at less than 5 degrees. Certainly not on the shelf, or not in the shelf of the pharmacy clinic. So that is important. But again, don't ask yourself only what is the correct answer, but say, where would I find this information? So this information you would be able to find within the PI. So where would you locate this information? Within the PI, you will be able to see under the section on storage of the medicine, it will tell you at what temperature to store this medicine. Okay. Okay, a 7-year-old child presenting with fever and rash at the clinic was diagnosed with measles. Which of the following would be the most appropriate advice to give the mother? So to avoid milk and dairy products? No. Isolate the child for at least 14 days? Absolutely. Administer vitamin C 250 milligram daily for 2 days? No. If the fever persists after the 3rd day of the rash, contact the doctor. So generally not, okay? So it seems like people were torn between option B and option D. For information such as this, such as measles, go and have a look at the standard treatment guidelines. So the standard treatment guidelines, remember that this talks about a child presenting at the clinic. So the level of care is primary health care, so PHC level. So again, important to note which reference material to use. Okay, the minimum period a prescription must be kept within the pharmacy before being discarded. 1 year, no. 3 years, no. Too little. 5 years, yep. 10 years. Remember that this question asks for the minimum amount of time. So how long would you have to keep it? And absolutely, a minimum of 5 years. So most of you got that correct. Again, where do you find this? It would have talked about keeping or storage of documentation with prescriptions in the Medicine and Related Substances Act, and that would then be reinforced within the GPP. So it's important that you know where to go and have a look for these statements. So one would have been the Medicine and Related Substances Act and the general regulations, but you'll probably find some information in the GPP as well, because that integrates what we do into practice. Okay. And that's it. So those are the examples that we are going to go through. I'm going to hand back to the office. Perhaps there are still some questions that we need to answer, or whether we're going to keep these to the end. But good luck, everyone. And you really can do this. Mojo is absolutely right. You've got all the skills and you're all capable of passing this exam. So take time to prepare well, and wishing you all the best.
Thank you, Dr. Justin. We were answering almost all questions as we were moving along on the chats, and those that we asked on YouTube, we are also making sure that that information is also transferred on that side. We will do a run through of the questions towards the end of the workshop. Thank you very much, Dr. Johnston. All right. Now, some of the questions that were being asked on the chats are relating to the actual setting up of the examination. So let's just try and cover that section now. With every examination, there is a compulsory practice examination. The aim of the practice exam is to ensure that you experience the same setup that you will on the day of the examination. So the practice exam will give you a feel of the actual questions and also allow you the opportunity to test your devices. So the next practice is on the 2nd of June, which is going to be a Tuesday. With the practice exam, you write both sections on the same day. As much as the actual exam is split into 2 days, the practice is on one day. Bookings will be open on Monday, and all communication regarding the actual booking process will be communicated on that email. So, and then the next one, we're going to be on the 8th of September with the actual exam on the 20th and the 21st of October. There is a criteria that will allow you eligibility to sit for the exam. So interns that are on their 6th month of internship on the day of writing the exam. So the calculations are based on when did you register for internship and on which month will you be in August when the exams are administered. So if in August you've already been an intern for more than 5 months, aka you're on your 6th month of internship on the day of the examination, and it is your first attempt writing that exam, you must have submitted all 6 portfolio of evidence entries and be found competent in 3. And you will have practiced the exam in the next practice, which is on June the 2nd, and your tutor must have submitted 3 progress reports. With the progress reports, you might find that the third one is due just before the examination. Please speak to your tutor and ask them to submit this progress reports just booking for your actual examination. The practice exam doesn't have any requirements, so that one you can book whether you are competent in your portfolio of evidence or your progress reports have been submitted. But you must meet this criteria before booking the actual exam, right? So with the interns that are on their 9th month of internship, meaning that you've completed 8 months of internship, you must have submitted all 6 and be found competent in all 6 portfolio of entries. Have practiced, and your tutor must have submitted at least 4 progress reports, right? These entry requirements are also available both on the website and in your intern tutor manual for you to refer to closer to the time of booking your examination. We have had a couple of workshops already, apologies, that were targeted to your portfolio of evidence entries. So this slide is basically just to remind you of the deadlines and how the deadlines tie with your examination. So when you're booking for your examination and you book on time, there is no fee for the exam if it's your first 2 attempts. If it's your 3rd attempt, unfortunately, there's a fee for that. However, if you are late, which is usually tied to your portfolio of evidence entries and their release, then you will be charged a late booking fee. The dates that are in amber or orange are there basically to caution you that if you want to write the examination in August, for example, try and show that you have submitted all 6 of your portfolio of evidence if you're on your 6th month of internship by the 1st of June, so that they'll be released by the 22nd of June, and you will not be eligible for a late booking fee. However, if you submit on the 29th of June, verify by the 30th of June, then they'll be released by the 20th of July, which will definitely come with the late booking fee. Because if you book your exams within the first 6 to 4 weeks of the bookings being open, you will not be charged a fee. However, if you book 4 to 2 weeks of the exam, there will be a fee, and you cannot book the exam 2 weeks before the writing date, right? So what you need to note is that communication with regards to the exams will be sent to you. You will get an SMS, so ensure that we have the correct cell phone number on our systems, because we will send you an SMS that says that our bookings have opened. But the instructions as to what to follow and what to do as far as booking is concerned is sent via email. So please ensure that your email address is also correct. And what we will do is 6 weeks before the date of writing the exam, we send communication. And from that 6 weeks to 4 weeks, the bookings are free. 4 weeks to 2 weeks, you will pay a late booking fee. 2 weeks before the exam, you cannot book the exam anymore, with no exceptions made. Please also make sure that your profile picture that we have on the platform is correct. That is also used for verification during the actual exam itself, right? Please make sure that your picture is a head and shoulder photo, right? A color photo within the last 6 months, just to make sure that you still look like the person who is writing the exam, so that whenever we need to confirm that who we are seeing on our screens during the invigilation is who we have on our register system. That is just an example of what we would like to see on there. So how do you book for your examination? You will go to the SAPC website, right? SAPC.co.za, and you will log in on that red login button at the corner. Once you've logged in, like you normally doing when you go and submit your portfolio of evidence, on the dashboard, you will go to the left and click on the pre-registration tab. Once you are there, the first one is pre-registration examination booking. You will click on it. Once you've clicked on it, you will see the booking that is open on the day. So right now, the booking that will be open will have on the date that it will say 02/06/2026, and it will state that it's a practice exam. Once that is there, you will then see the 2 sections. You have to indicate the venue for the 2 separate sections, right? And your venue options are home, other, SAPC offices, or work. What this means is you can book to write at home, which is your place of residence. You can book to write at other. Other means any other venue that you have vetted and you feel that it will meet the examination criteria, meaning it will be quiet, you will have stable network, you will not have any anticipated disruptions on the day, meaning that you will be able to focus. If you choose SAPC offices, it means that you are willing to come to Pretoria on the day of the exam. If you come to Pretoria and come to our offices, we will provide you with the network, with the data, and with a laptop for you to write on the exam. If you choose to write at work, that means that it will be more or less the same setup as writing at home, just that you'll be writing at work. You will have to have your own device and your own network. Caution with writing at work. Usually with work, you might have firewall issues. So if you are writing at work, please try use your own device and your own data, because there you might not have firewall issues. Whereas if you are using your employer's networks, then they might have firewalls which will clash with the examination platform. So we've already covered the venues. What you will need on the day of the examination is a laptop with a functional camera, right? Because you will need to monitor you during the examination using camera feed from both your camera and a cell phone. Cell phone, any smartphone that will have functional cameras on the day, and also a calculator, especially for day one where you're doing your calculation. You are allowed to bring a pen and paper for you to do some scribbling on. You are allowed to bring hard and soft copy resources, whichever you're comfortable with. Right. So we will now hand over to comms for them to play a quick video, right? And the video will give you a demonstration of what you will be doing on the day. Please pay attention because this usually takes up a lot of your time when it comes to preparation on the examination, right? While you are preparing, make sure that you're choosing a quiet place that is suitable for you to work, enough space for you to have all your resources displayed. Please stay calm. Please make sure that you are utilizing all your resources that you are aware of, right? So have your laptop or desktop ready, your cell phone ready. Make sure that whatever browser that you are comfortable with, you have tested and tried before. On the day of the examination, the first hour, which is 8 to 9, will be utilized for you to log in. So be seated by 8 so that whenever challenges you might have, we have enough time to assist you. Because at 9, the examination starts. And from 9 to 11, the focus should be on you writing. So we please urge you that on both days, between 8 and 9, you are setting up, you are seated, and you are ready. All right, let's pay attention then to the video so that we have more information on what to expect on the day of the examination. Thank you.
Welcome to SAPC's step-by-step guide on how to log in to your examination. Ms. Lisbeth Kumede, manager in the pre-registration department, will guide you through the process.
Examination, you are afforded the opportunity to choose whether you're going to write at your place of residence, you're going to write at a workplace, or you're going to write at any other venue that you think comfortable and fit enough to meet the requirements of the examination. So the SAPC then uses a system called the proctoring system for them to then be able to invigilate you throughout your examination session. So when you're writing the examination, you then require two devices. One, a laptop with enough network coverage to cover you throughout the examination, right? So your laptop must have a functioning webcam for us to be able to see you just the way that you are seeing me right now. So throughout your examination, SAPC is monitoring you from your webcam to be able to see what you are looking at and what your eyes are paying attention to throughout your examination. Second thing that you need is a functioning smartphone. Doesn't really matter the brand that you're using as long as its cameras are working on the day of the exam. So before we sit for your exam, make sure that you have two devices, a laptop with a webcam, a smartphone with functioning camera. So we're able to see you from the side. So while we are seeing you from the front, you using your webcam, but we also need to see a side view using your smartphone. So the smartphone gives us access to see your workstation. We must be able to see what you do with your hands. We must also have a view of your surrounding throughout. Thirdly, is while we are writing, you are required to share the screen. So that means that we need to see what you are doing on the device itself. Whatever tabs we have open, SAPC needs to be able to see that. Because it's an open book exam, you can have actual paper, pen notes that you are using, and you can also have electronic copies that you are using. So while we are able to see what you have on the paper using the smartphone, we also need to share your screen so they're able to see what documents you have opened as you are progressing with the exam. So we are going to go through 2 steps right now. One is how to get through the exam, right? And what you need to do. Two is what SAPC is then able to see as you are writing the examination. I will keep my screen shared so that you are able to see and able to follow through what you need to do on the day of either the practice exam or the actual examination. So you will need to choose one of 3 browsers that you are comfortable with for the exam. Advice, have all 3 browsers downloaded prior to the exam. The browsers are Google Chrome, Firefox, or Microsoft Edge. Have all three downloaded, and then you'll be able to see which one you want to use on the day and which one you can revert back to should you need to. So for this demo, I will use Google Chrome because that's the one that I usually use. No specific preference whatsoever. I will now share my screen for you to then see what I am doing. So what you do then is we go to the preferred browser. Like I said, I'm going to go with Google Chrome, type in the SAPC website, right? Then you go to the SAPC website. When you get here, it's the usual landing page. Please avoid going to click this red login button. Just go to register persons. This will also be part of the email that will be sent to you just prior to writing the exam. You click on registered persons. Says pharmacy student, you are a pharmacist intern. You click there, you get the overview, scope, internship, all of that. You go to English examinations. When you are here, it will say pre-registration examination. There's a link for you to check for the day of the examination. When you click on that link, it will then take you to the examination landing page where you'll be required to put in your PIN number, your ID number, and your password. Mine are already saved, which is something that I highly suggest because it makes things easy for you in the day of the examination. You will then go through a validation process, after which you will land on the OTP page. So the OTP is shared via both SMS and email. So whichever is easy for you to access on the day, we'll go through that. It will say there that it will receive your OTP within 10 minutes, but usually you get this within a few minutes. So I have my phone next to me. It's going to be easier for me to go to my SMSs to quickly check. And yes, I've already received my SMS, right? So you can see I have my SMS already with me. I got my SMS just now. And then what I will quickly do is put it in, and my OTP is 528.6, right? And continue, and then it will take you through the steps that you need to follow. But the first one is it shows you that you must have proper lighting. Make sure that there are no other faces visible except for yourself. You will click next, and then it will start doing the system checks, right? So when it comes to the system checks, one, it will do a browser check. The browser check is to check that you're using a compatible browser. Remember, we said it's either Chrome, Firefox, or Microsoft Edge, right? It will do a webcam check. The webcam check is to check that your camera is on and not connected to anything else. So as you can see, my webcam check failed. Reason being, I am using it on the Teams to record this session, right? Then you do a microphone check to see if my microphone is open. Remember, during the examination, you must also be able to hear everything that is happening in the room that you're writing in. The next check will be your screen check to see that you have enabled sharing your screen. We need to be able to see everything that you're doing on the screen. Then you can do a network check to see if you are stable throughout your examination. So with the browser check, I've passed because I went to one of the 3, which was Chrome, Edge, or Firefox. With the webcam check, I failed. The reason why I failed is because my webcam is currently used for a different platform and not the examination. So that means I need to go then to my Teams, right? and stop sharing my camera so that I can then go back and retry this check, since now my camera is no longer being utilized by team and is now available for the system to use to properly do the examination. We're going to go through the check and see now my microphone is built. They are able to hear everything that I'm doing throughout the examination. So that plus we are now on the screen check. With the screen check, I currently have my second screen connected, which is why we are able to see screen two. When you have two screens opened like this, you are unable to share all of them at the same time. So you'll be asked to be forced to choose one. But remember that we say that we must be able to see everything that you're doing. So if you have two screens and you're only able to share one, that technically means that you're not able to see screen two. Right? So if I choose the first screen, which is my busy screen, and I click share, I will definitely fail this check, because now there's a second screen that is not being shared and therefore not being counted, meaning that I couldn't do anything else on the other screen, which is not being part of the examination. So what I'll need to do is only one screen functioning throughout the examination. I will now click retry, and as you can see, my second screen is no longer connected. Therefore, I will try to share my entire screen and see if I am now able to test through the checks. I've gone green. It's checking my network to see if currently I'm stable. I've checked past that. It's also going to check my web RPC, and I've also passed that. Only then will I be able to click next. So if you fail your browser and your webcam, your browser can also fail if the version that you are using is old. So make sure that you monitor any other update that your laptop might want you to do prior to the examination. Your webcam, make sure you're familiar with your settings. Test your webcam. Actually go and find your camera from the laptop and try to take a picture just to make sure that it's functioning, right? Also your microphone. Just try, I don't know, call a friend via Teams via your microphone to make sure that it's working. Try and have a Teams meeting to see if you're able to share your screen. Another thing is we will send you a link. Right? We will send you a link with the software to test all of this. Make sure that you test so that you are able to identify any problem you might have prior to the examination. When we give you the link, it will perform all of these next checks on the device. Make sure that you follow me through so that you can make alternative plans on time. Now that I have all my greens, I'm going to then press next. Then it's going to show me my profile to verify that it's the right person taking the examination. I do update my correct information. I will then press next. Then it's going to ask me to take a photo. So when it comes to this photo, make sure that it is a shoulder width photo. So how I am currently appearing, right? So how I'm currently appearing is a bit of my shoulders are in the photo. My whole face is in the photo. I'm not too close to the camera, right? And I'm not too far back. So just make sure that you position yourself very well. Also, my lighting is tight. And I don't have that glaring light over my head. It's not too dark. It's just good enough for me to then do what? Take a photo. So when you're here, you then decide on whatever pose you want to strike, right? Just make sure that we're able to identify you. So you stand here, shoulders into the frame a little bit, not too much, and then you take photo. All right. So as you can see, they are saying that there was too much going on when it comes to my photo. There was too many things. There's poor lighting. So now I need to reposition myself and click a retry. If it's saying that there's something wrong with your picture, just click retry and then see if you can reposition yourself and click take photo. Now the system is happy with the photo that I've taken, and only then will there be a next button. Now I will click next. Now it gives you a QR code. This is where your smartphone comes in. If different devices have the QR code scanner in different parts of the device, just make sure that you are familiar with where your QR code scanner is. And if it doesn't have a QR scanner, there are many apps that you can download that will allow you to scan your QR code. Mine came with the phone, so now I'm scanning the QR code. While you are scanning the QR code, your laptop will remain on the screen. And now focus on the video feed. so I can be able to show you what you are seeing. So as soon as you scan, you will see that on your phone. It will say there that you have scanned it, and then you will have to open the link. When I click open on the link, I'm just going to show you. It's going to ask me to then do a quick recording of my surrounding. When I press there, it's going to ask me to now start recording. I will then click on start recording. When I start recording, I then have to record my whole surrounding, right? So I will then just turn around so that there's a full feed showing exactly where I am. I am showing my entire office, right? To show that there is no one sitting with me in the office. I am all by myself, right? And as you can see there, you can see what the camera is showing. So it connected with the back camera. Once I have taken a full video, I will then click stop recording. It will ask me to save the recording there at the bottom. I will then click save recording. It asks if I am sure that I want to save the recording. I will say yes. I am sure. It's giving me a preview of the recording, and then it saves the recording. So now it's asking me to please wait while it saves the recording. I am just now following all the instructions from the phone. It says that now the camera has been successfully connected. I can go back to the computer, right? So as you can see, everything that is appearing from my back camera is now available. So what that means then is I need to position the phone in such a way that I am visible. So then I need to find something to balance the phone so that as I'm working, they're able to see my hands and they're able to see what I am doing. Now that we have successfully connected our phone, and you can see there that you can see me from the phone and from the recording. I will now then close the camera from the laptop so that I can go back to sharing the screen, and you can now also then be able to see what we are now doing. Then it wants me to verify this is me and this is the exam that I'm writing. I say yes, and then I click start. Once I click start, again, remember I must share my screen. It's asking me to choose what I want to share. I want to share my entire screen, and then I click share. Now we need to go through the declaration. But before we go through it, I want to give you some pointers. You can see here at the bottom of the screen, that's how the invigilator is seeing me. That's the front view camera from the webcam, right? And then my cell phone is on the side also monitoring me. My screen is being shared. So at this point, my invigilator is able to see 3 screens from my end. They're able to see that I'm currently doing my declaration, and that is the only tab open. They are also able to see my front view from the webcam, and they're also able to see me from the camera that I've pointed on the side. Now, I must read through all the declaration. When you get a declaration, all of them will be unticked. You must click, they will be unticked, right? You will actually have to physically tick one of them. I've unticked 3 to show you something. When there's a declaration that is not ticked, you will not have a continue button. So what you will do is you will read through each declaration, right? And then you tick it to say that you will comply. So the first one says that you're writing the examination in a suitable area with minimum anticipated distraction. This is also important when you're choosing your venue, right? The second one says that you are writing the examination at the place that you chose during your booking. If the place that you chose during your booking changes, just let SAPC know that you're not going to be writing at home, you're not writing at work, or vice versa, or you're not coming to the SAPC office, so that we know where exactly you'll be writing the examination. Next one. I am not sitting next to anyone. So here you're confirming that you will not be getting any help from anyone, right? You take it. You will not be receiving any assistance from anyone writing the exam, and not sitting to any other intern. You take it. You will not communicate, whether it's verbally, electronically, WhatsApp group, whatever it is, with either your tutor, pharmacist, any other person who can give any assistance during the examination. You will not use any other reference except for the ones printed for the exam. Remember, in the manual, we do list your exams in there. We go to the website, we also list your preferred references there. And then also, we've already spoken about how Google can be used, but not as a reference during the examination. You will not give assistance to anyone. You will not be spoon grabbing the questions during the examination or noting down the questions during the examination for which you share with anyone. And if you are aware of anyone who is recording the examination, screen grabbing, writing down, and distributing the examination, you will then share this with the ACPC. So now, once you have made sure that all of your declarations are ticked, you will then have a continue button at the end that will then allow you to continue with your examination. Right, then you can continue. Another note, make sure that your phone is on mute or on silence, because just like you saw with mine right now, I got distracted because it rang. And what did I do? I tried to move it to get it silent. When I did that, that means I interrupted my invigilation. So make sure that your phone is on mute so that you do not then get distracted during the examination and you are not then tempted to touch your phone and interrupt your invigilation. Now that you have landed here, you are now going to be given your instructions. And as you can see, it said that my mobile camera is disconnected. It got disconnected just by me trying to answer the phone. So when you get any violation during the examination, all your violations are going to appear here. And how do I then reconnect my phone? I will click here, right? QR code. Rescan the QR code. Once I rescan the QR code, then my phone will be reconnected and that message will then disappear. While we are here, what we have options here is we have the calculator, we have the QR codes, if in case it gets disconnected, we have the chat function. With the chat function, this is where you are now able to chat to your invigilator regarding anything, right? So say I want to confirm what time my exam will be. I can say why will be invigilator. What time will be exam, right? And then I send it to my invigilator will be able to receive this message and they'll be able to respond back to me. So now here, while you're sitting here, you then get your instructions. With the instructions, you're being told how long the examination is, what you need to get to be able to pass, how the different sections are divided, what time it is for the different examinations. Again, we're able to go through the instructions just to make sure you don't miss anything, right? And then you are landed and start the exam. So when you get to start the exam, examinations are scheduled to start at 9. When you get here before 9, do not click the start the exam. If you do click start the exam, it will tell you that you are still waiting for the exam to be started. And then if you are clicking it after 9, you will go through the examination itself. Say you are landed here, and you're going through the instructions and 9 hit and the exam becomes open for you to be able to access it. And a message will pop up that says that your examination is now open. You'll click OK and then you'll click start the exam. If you attempt to access the exam before 8 a.m. in the morning, you will be put in the waiting lobby, right? So let's go through the times again. If you log in before 8 a.m., you will be put in the waiting lobby until 8. So 8 a.m. So if you try to work into the exam before 8 a.m., you'll be put in the waiting lobby, right? You need to wait until 8 and then you'll be put into here when you can start when you are waiting to start the exam. If you are in here between 8 and 9, you're waiting at this stage, you can get through the instructions, you can tap yourself, and if you get it after 9, you'll be able to hit the start button and access the exam. So say I am here and it's after 9 and on the day of the examination and my exam is open, I will then hit the start button which will then take me to the actual examination, where I will now be able to see my patients and then go through everything that I need to do, right? So this is the first part, which is what you need to do as an intern. What I will then now do is give you a quick review of what we as the invigilators are able to see. So it's better understanding of what is expected of you on the day of the examination. So this is just so that you have questions of what we have open on the day, right? So remember, when I open, I am the intern, right? So I'm not sure if you're able to see the echo that is currently going, and that echo is simply because um, the invigilator is able to also hear what I am doing. So when the invigilator checks on the current intern that is writing, which is now myself, remember, on this tab is me here on the exam, right? And then I'm on this tab just to show you how it looks like. So now my invigilator is able to see three screens. Remember, I said this is my front view from the webcam, right? And then this is the side view from my cell phone. They are able to see my workstation, they are able to see my pen, my notepad, and they are able to see everything else that I am doing. That's the second screen. And then the third screen is they are able to see my workstation. So now what they are able to see is what I am doing on the laptop because my screen is shared, right? Remember I said that means that they're able to see. So you can see from the screen share already, they can see that I have my Proctor tab open, and they can see the second tab here at the corner, which is the examination. So if I were to open, for example, another tab, let's open another tab, and then we go to say YouTube for whatever reason. As long as I am on this tab, they will then be able to see. So as you can see, they were able to see that I was on YouTube briefly, right? And then when I close my YouTube, then you can see that also on this screen, the YouTube disappears. So you are allowed to go to different tabs. However, you must know that it will tell you that your focus has changed to a different window. This is fine if what you are doing is allowed because you are aware that they're able to see what you're doing. However, this is also to notify the invigilator to say the intern is no longer on the exam page, they are looking at something else. Please go and have a look at what they're looking at to decide if it's something that they can look at or it's something that they shouldn't be looking at. Right? So this is just how the examination is going to be on the day and how you are going to be invigilated. We'll now go back to the session for you to have any question that you might have answered. Thank you.
All right. Now that we have gone through the demo of what to expect on the day of the examination, the next three slides just emphasize the importance of adhering to the rules of the examination, right? First, you will have to declare prior to the examination. We've already gone through this declaration in the video. Post the examination, you declare again. You confirm that you have complied to the rules that you declared before starting the examination. While you are on the waiting room, remember we said at 8, you log in, do your declaration. While you are waiting for 9 to hit, you will have access to the rules again for you to go through them again. So it's just to say that please make sure you adhere to the rules. You are being invigilated. Someone is monitoring you throughout your examination. Just to clarify a few things, should you have issues while you are getting into the exam, we've already went through all the other checks. However, with the WebRTC, that one usually is if ever there are any firewalls, any antiviruses, anything that is blocking the platform itself from gaining full access over your computer. Remember, we are monitoring you. So if ever there's anything blocking us from getting access to your video, to your camera, to anything that you're doing, then the WebRTC will fail. Therefore, please try use a different network. Make sure to disable your firewalls, your antiviruses, or anything else that is blocked. Say you have your pop-ups blocked, your ads blocked. Please make sure that you disable those. If for any reason you are using a VPN, make sure that also you disable that VPN so that we have full access and we're able to record your session. If because at 8 you start your examination, right? You start logging into your examination. However, the actual paper becomes available to you only at 9. So if you try to click start the examination before 9, it will tell you that the examination hasn't been started because access will only be granted at 9. And if you are waiting on the lobby and it's now at 9, you will get a message that says that your examination has started. You will then click OK, thank you, and then be able to proceed to your paper. If for whatever reason, whether you are not in the country or your laptop is out of date, you will not be able to write the exam, right? So at 9, when we are saying that it's 9 a.m., your laptop must also be at 9 a.m. because it is a timed examination. So right now, day before the exam, morning of the exam, make sure that your timer is adjusted to South African time. It must be the exact time for you to have access to the examination. Should you be experiencing live proctoring not connected, meaning that we are not able to see you, you will not be able to have access to the examination. Should that happen, close absolutely everything that is open so that you are then able to reconnect, right? What this means is usually when we ask, please close everything, out of panic, out of fear of losing time or losing your questions, interns do not follow the instruction, they do not close everything. And what that does is it delays the interference. So whenever you have a challenge or whatever you're experiencing difficulties and you reach out to the office, whatever instructions they give you, try keep to them as they are giving them to you. If they say close absolutely everything and restart, close absolutely everything and restart. You trying to also interfere and do what you think might be best will then might even cause more delays, right? Here is just a brief summary of the few things that we see, and we will have to talk to you about them, right? So remember we said when you are writing, we are monitoring you, right? So whatever you contravene the rules of the examination, a notification pops up. You get the notification, invigilator get the notification. So you're already aware of what you need to fix. Conversation in the background, looking into a different window, losing connectivity to your cell phone, having a second screen connected, muting your mic, or just purely lowering the volume. You will get notifications. When you get the notification, please try remedial it before we reach out to you. We will reach out to you once. Second time, we remove you from the examination. A few things to recap. One question per screen at a time, right? Questions are randomized. So even if you're sitting next to someone else or you're writing and you're chatting to someone else, you'll realize that you will not get the same question at the same time. Do not be chatting to other people because you will not be getting the same question at the same time. The exam is timed. Please pay attention to that. Like Prof. Demana said, if you can save time on a question, do so that you have more time for another question, right? Once the question has been answered, you cannot revisit it. Like Dr. Johnston said, if you can't answer the question then, skip it, move to another one so that you're able to get more time with it later. This is how your exam questions are going to look, one question at a time. The question, your options, the option to skip to another question, your button to check to the invigilator, and your option for references. When it comes to chatting to the invigilator, you can ask them questions about the platform of the exam, but you cannot ask them questions about the actual question of the exam. They will not be able to assist you with answers or things that you spot regarding the actual question or the option. You can only speak to them regarding invigilation things, like if you want to know how far you are and stuff like that. Right. Once every time you answer a question, that question auto saves. Right. The reason why you can't go back to it is already it's auto saved and auto submitted. So should you use connectivity or your laptop dies or whatever happens, whatever you have answered up until that point has been saved and submitted. Therefore, when you when you gain access to the exam again, you only have access to what was not attempted answered before, right? And each question, as you answer it, gets time stamped and recorded. That is why you cannot revisit it. Once you've answered all your questions, there is a submit button at the end. However, if maybe you run out of time and you don't get the submit button, do not worry, your options were already answered. Once you are now done, and we have reached the 6 to 8 weeks that it takes for council to release your results. It takes 6 to 8 weeks because of the amount of verifications that your submissions go through, and which is also the reason why you cannot do a remarking. The amount of work that goes into assessing your paper and making sure that everything is fair does not allow for us to do a remarking. You are, however, allowed to do a review. And how a review works is you book with the office, you pay a fee, you come in, we sit through, and you get access to your script alongside the memo, and you also get access to the references that we used in assessing your papers. However, results will be released within 6 to 8 weeks of writing, right? So you will log back into your secure site, go to registration, examination, then on the second tab will be your examination results. You will click there, and then you'll be able to view your results. With the practice paper, however, you do get your entire memo for you to be able to see. So the practice paper, once those results are released, they are released usually within a week. You will be able to go through the memo and see the workings. However, with the actual exam, you do not get access to the memo, right? Remember, it's 2 sections of one paper. You have to pass both sections. Both sections are compulsory. You have to write both sections. You cannot write one paper in one sitting and another on a different sitting. So you have to sit in August for both papers for you to have a chance at passing the paper, right? Keep your cell phone next to you. We will be communicating in that position that allows us to see you, right? However, the preferred method of communication during the examination is via the chat function within the exam platform itself. You will get a lot of help from your invigilators, from the pre-reg department, from call center. So whenever you need us, either you call call center, either you text us on the number displayed here, which will also be shared with you during the communication that is shared once you have booked for your examination. Please try stay calm. If you have any issues, the office is available to you on the day of the examination, before the examination, and also after the examination. Whenever you're booking, make an informed decision. When you're booking, there's also an icon on the tab that will give you information about the different venues that you choose. Make an informed decision. Should that change, inform us and make sure that you then move to a venue that is suitable. Should you practice at venue A, experience challenges, and you want to change that, do reach out to us for advice and then change your venue to a better place. Do dress appropriately, because remember, all of this is recorded and kept, and you might not want us to see you in a manner that you might not deem appropriate yourself, right? We will be communicating with you throughout. Make sure that you have enough support and you're able to cope with the examination. Like Dr. Dion said, as much as we are no longer having or experiencing as much load shedding as we used to before, but please make sure that you're on the lookout of these things and you can make alternative plans whenever needed, right? If ever you do disconnect, we've already gone through how to reconnect to your cell phone in the video itself. And like we said, if you are asked to close all your browsers or close all your tabs, please close all your browsers. It is because we don't want you to experience a catch, meaning that there is an open session, you're trying to open a second session. You cannot access the exam on 2 separate sessions, right? Same with if you have to change a laptop for whatever reason. You have to make sure that the first laptop session is completely closed before moving on to the next one. Here are just some tips on how to clear your cache or clear your browser history on different platforms. Remember, we said all 3 browsers must be installed on whatever device that you're choosing to use on the day. And please try familiarize yourself with the browsers. Then, like I did in the video, choose the browser that you're most comfortable with, that you know if you were asked to clear the history, you will not be learning. If you were asked to deactivate the antivirus, for example, you will not be struggling. If you're asked to disconnect from the VPN, you will not be struggling, right? So choose a PC, right? Number one, and a browser that you are comfortable with. These are just the different steps for the different browsers. In case you need to look at them, the presentation will be available on the website. If you have any queries, any changes, anything regarding the examination, please forward your queries to pre-registration or pre-reg exam workshops at sapc.za.org. All your exam or this workshop related queries, please direct them to this email and you will get a prompt response and guidance as to what you will need to do. As far as the exam is concerned, remember, you are evaluated on 4 things. None of these is superior to the other. All of them are equally important. All of them are interlinked. That is why it depends on how far you are on the days for you to be able to write the examination, on how far you are with the portfolio of evidence for you to gain access to the examination. Passing the examination is key. Your progress reports are also key. So make sure that you have a good relationship with your tutor and that they submit your progress report. You are showing up at work so that you have enough days for you to qualify for your examination. You write your exam, you pass it, you submit your portfolio of evidence, follow all guidance provided by your assessors and moderators, right? At the beginning, the COO did already touch on how to be good interns and avoiding moving around as far as your internship post is concerned and how that affects other interns. The plea, please, remains the same. If you're already registered, you've already secured a post, this is a practical training year. Technically, you are still training to become a pharmacist. Let's treat it as such. Yes, we're getting remuneration. Yes, we need to survive. However, let us be considerate of other interns and not be hoarding posts that could be utilized by other interns, because we will finish, we will have our freedom after ComServe, and we can then do whichever we deem fit, as long as it is still ethical. The ease always talks about what scopes of practice interns have access to, right? And the answer always remains the same. You have 2 scopes of practice. Where you are registered with your tutor, you are practicing as a pharmacist. Anywhere else, you have access to the scope of a PT as long as you are registered and active as an intern, which therefore means technically you can locum as a PT, right? However, with this, we do not give you an additional letter, an additional registration that says that you are a PT. The only thing you have access to is your registration as an intern, your letter as an intern, and the scope as per the regulations. So if other places refuse, say, to take you because they're not familiar with the regulation, it becomes your responsibility to demonstrate the regulations to them, but we cannot give you an additional registration as a PT because you are not registered as a PT. You just have access to the scope of a PT. When you're doing your 400 hours, you are not doing that as a PT, you are doing that as a pharmacist because that is forming part of your internship. As much as it's an extension in a different venue, however, that forms part of your requirement of internship. So it's best that we keep that information in check. And I am showing you where this is accessed on the website in case you need to refer back to it, right? Once we have met all the requirements of the year and we are now towards the end of the year, please make sure that you apply for your CSP. The application is done with Department of Health and not with SAPC. SAPC registers you, but the placement and everything else is done via DOH. Thank you very much. We have covered quite a lot, right? And I do apologize that towards the end, I was now sort of kind of rushing through it, but it was because I was conscious of the time. So please provide us with feedback. The greenish QR is for interns. Just let us know what you found useful, what we can improve for the upcoming interns. The blue one is for tutors, pharmacists, and RPs that we have present. also for them to provide us with whatever inputs they have. If it's things that we can improve now, we will definitely also put it on the website. If you prefer the form itself, the link has been shared on the chat function and also on the comment section on YouTube. I will just give you a few seconds to scan the QR code. In the interim, we can also be asking our questions on the chat. I'm hoping that we have now scanned the QR code. We do have the link on the chat, and we do also have the link on the comment section on YouTube. An announcement. We do have the 4th National Pharmacy Conference coming up on the 11th to the 13th of October 2026. Please register. It's going to be a very fun event. You will get the opportunity to liaise, interact with other people within the profession. It will be a great learning opportunity for you. If you are having abstracts that you'd like to present, please also make sure that you submit those. They will be reviewed. And who knows, we could be sitting there listening to you. We could be walking there looking at your abstract poster. So please make sure that you submit your abstract and you register for the conference. It will be a great learning and interacting opportunity. If you want to stay up to date with information on the conference, anything else that is happening regarding the profession that is through the Pharmacy Council, please scan the QR code and join the WhatsApp group, so the WhatsApp channel, so that you are up to date with whatever we have going on, latest board notices, e-notes that you might have missed, and whatever else that we might have been posting on all our socials. All right. Do we have any questions that have not yet been answered? Will rely on my team. Natalie, do we have anything that hasn't been addressed as yet?
Thanks, Ms. Kumede. Yes, how does it work if you're writing at home and have to use the restroom?
You just pop a quick message to Invigilator and step out, so that whenever they're looking at your screen, they are aware that you've stepped away. So just pop a quick message to your Invigilator on the chat. I'm stepping out to go to the bathroom. Do not move your cell phone or your laptop. Go and come back.
Are we allowed to use Alton Pharmaceutics as a reference during the calculations exam?
Yes, you are.
If it is an open book exam, will iPads with notes on be allowed?
No. iPads with notes count as a third device. So a cell phone with notes, an iPad with notes, any third device is not allowed. You only have access to your cell phone for invigilation and your laptop. Any electronic references, please download them on the laptop that you are writing on. Thank you.
How do we know what formulas will be used in the calculation paper?
You will not be able to. That's why we say you can bring a formula sheet. However, what Prof. Demana has given as guidance gives you a bit of a picture. What you will see on the practice exam also gives you a sort of a picture. So stick to the domains that were given and the guidance that were given, and prepare an extensive formula sheet for you to have access to on the day of the examination. Thank you.
How can we use guidelines on the phone if the phone will be used for camera, or must all the guidelines and reference materials be on the laptop?
On the laptop, please.
If something goes wrong with the website, how do we contact council quickly, assuming we lost contact with our invigilator?
You can then use your cell phone for WhatsApp or calling customer care directly.
What happens if your network or camera fails in the middle of the exam?
Please try and ensure that you have some sort of backup, because those need to remain connected throughout. We need to have invigilation going on, and you need access to your network for you to be able to access the question. If you lose connectivity to the internet, for example, you will not be able to gain access to the remaining questions. So have backups, have enough data on your cell phone for you to connect to as hotspot should you need to. Have your laptop charged should you lose electricity, because you would need those to continue.
Can we use online notes?
Yes, you can. No past papers, but notes you can.
What about comments we made on an accredited PDF? Is that fine?
Yes, it's fine.
If we write the exam in person, can we use our own laptops?
Yes, you can.
Do we get study leave for the practice exam?
That depends on your agreement with your employer, but yes, you should.
Can we book now for the practice exam?
Bookings will open on Monday. Communication will be sent on Monday, but yes, you can.
Could you kindly clarify the date of the final submission of the 6 CPDs to qualify for the August exam? Is it on the 1st of June or the 29th of June to prevent the late booking fee?
Please refer to your manual. The dates are on the manual and on the website on the CPD tab.
The pre-reg exam on the 2nd of June, can it be taken any time, for example, at night after work?
No, it will have to be taken at the exact time that everyone else is taking. Remember, the aim is also to give you the same experience as writing the actual exam. So it is still time bound and you still have to take it with everybody else. So it will be between 9 and 2. You will write the first section between 9 and 11, 30 minutes break, continue with the rest of the session, but it has to be with everybody else.
That looks like everything, Ms. Kumede.
Thank you very much, Net. If you still get any other questions after we have closed, please send them through to that email, pre-reg exams workshop at sapc.za.org. We will answer them, and the presentation will be made available somewhere towards the end of next week on the website. The previous year's presentation and workshop slides are still available on the website. Even on YouTube, after this, you can still listen. And we wish you all the best. Memalago, Senior Manager Pre-Reg, do you have anything to say to the intern to wish them luck?
Thank you so much, Melis. It's intense. Thank you so much for attending this workshop. Please do enjoy your internship here. Make the best of it. Wish you all the best for the upcoming examination. Please do work on your portfolio of evidence entries, and please prepare well for the examinations. All the best. And Memo just said you got it, and indeed you got it. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much, facilitators. Thank you very much, interns. Thank you, RPs, tutors. Thank you, everybody who came. Like my seniors have already said, we wish you all the best. The office is available to you to assist and make sure that this year is as seamless as possible. Customer care, whether you prefer email, calling, coming straight, social media, whatever it is, reach out to us. We are ready and willing to assist you in any way possible. Thank you very much for your time. I really hope the session was as useful as we intended it to be. All the best with your internship year and the exam. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thank you. Bye.